I'm here with Elliott Connie, and Elliott is a psychotherapist who came to me through a good friend of mine, Bill O'Hanlon, who is actually, there's another case study. If you go and dig into our case studies, you'll see the case study with Bill O'Hanlon. In any case, Elliott, thanks for joining us. Can you just tell folks a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. My name is Elliott Connie, and by trade, I'm a psychotherapist. I have a practice in Texas. And more recently, I have transitioned to teaching psychotherapists how to do something called solution-focused brief therapy. And I offer courses online to do that, which is pretty exciting and awesome. I also travel around. I've been to about 30 countries teaching people how to do this. So it's a lot of fun in my business.
And so you've recently, you had this practice, you saw a lot of clients, and then you recently, you came into my world a few years ago and you've made this big leap, big transition.
Right. Yeah, so when I was in graduate school, I knew I wanted to have a practice because I knew I wanted to be free to practice however I wanted instead of being told by my bosses how to do psychotherapy. And I got really obsessed about building the biggest practice I could. But I'm someone, I really want to reach people. I really want to make a difference. And I really want to, do my part of eradicating human suffering if I could. And I realized that no matter how hard I worked, I was only going to be able to reach this many people in my practice. And if I could figure out a way to reach people online, then in essence, all of the psychotherapists I taught, their clients would also experience a difference. And that's what motivated me to transition my work online, to take some of the load off of me and reach many more people with hope and positivity, which is, I think, the greatest drug to get addicted to.
I agree. It's a great one. It's a great one. So tell me about how you go from being a therapist, a psychotherapist, and working with clients to building a training business for other psychotherapists. And how do you launch something like that? And
perseverance. That's how I describe it. I can remember. Is it okay? Can I be specific here? Is that all right?
That'd be great.
I remember thinking okay, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm reading online you got to have an email list, and I've got no email list, and it's 2016, 17, whatever year, and I got no email list. I was like, if I can get to 100 people, if I can get my email list to 100 people, I'll be the most famous person ever. And I got my email list to 100 people just with a newsletter. And then when I got to 100 people, I was like, if I can get my email list to 500 people, just sending out a newsletter and just sharing, I was like, okay, that'll be awesome. And then if I can get my list to 1,000 people, there's a comma in my email list, this will be great. And I hit 1,000 people, and I just kept going. I just kept working at it, and I would offer a course, or I would offer a workshop, or I would offer a thing. I would do a live event that people had to fly to me, or I would do an online thing, but I would just keep going. And I noticed that none of what I did worked, but none of what I did failed. So every single thing, I learned something, or I grew at least a bit. And my goal was to grow my email list. So even if I just did one new person came on my list, that would have been great. And before I knew it, I had it took about 3 years, but I had about 26,000 people on my email list. And I was just wow, that. Now I'm reaching people that I couldn't have reached any other way. But I just kept persevering, and I kept thinking about value that I could offer to psychotherapists, and then just sharing what the value was. And you just keep doing, you just keep going.
I love it because since you're in my world, you know that a lot of people, they get stopped before they ever get started because they think, I can't have an email list, or I don't have a huge list. But I love that you just had this, wow, if I could just have 100, that'd be so amazing. And then...
Yeah, that was actually where it started. If I could have 100 people, that's great. Because I knew, I did what everybody else did, right? You start your email list and you ask all your friends and family to join it. And I knew I didn't have 100 friends and family. So I thought, if I get 15 people, those are my friends and family, people I'm in college with. But if I get to 100, that means there are complete and total strangers on my email list who are only there because they want to eat the food I'm serving, right? They want to eat the thing that I'm giving out. And that's what started it. That's what made it happen.
That's fantastic. So talk about launching. When did you launch? When did you first launch? Because I know you've done a bunch of them.
I've done a bunch of them. So my first launch was in 2015, the fall of 2015 or 16. I actually can't remember. I did an event, which was a live event that I called like the Winter Intensive. And it was the very first time I had really worked. I'm going to launch this thing. And I did this launch, and I was like, if I can get 30 people in a hotel conference room, that'll be sold out because I could only hold 35. And I got to 35 people, and I had people calling me saying like, my friend is there, can you please let me in? I see registrations closed and I know you're sold out. And I had to call the hotel to see if we can get into a bigger room. And that very first launch let me know that this was possible if you follow the right process and if you stick to it enough.
And so, and how much did you charge for that one?
Oh boy, I don't remember. I think I charged like $797, and I ended up with like 42 people showing up.
Wow.
And to me, that was $9.6 billion. That was an unheard of amount of money. No one I had ever known had ever had that much money come in one time. I only left the registration open for a week. So it was like, this is the most money you could possibly make in a week. Like there is no plus one to this. Like this is the maximum you could make in a week, and it's amazing.
That's incredible. And you delivered that one in person, but then when did you move to then delivering it online?
So about 6 months later, I created, and I recorded it on my phone, and I created this training series that really went deep into the psychotherapy mindset. And I remember just being grossly disappointed with that. Because I thought, because of how just amazingly enthusiastic the first one went, and I remember, and I made money, I don't remember how much, but I made money, probably like $10,000. But I was fully prepared to make hundreds of thousands of dollars on that second launch. And that is when I just decided, I'm gonna do this until I get good at it. I have an athletic background, and I swear, the greatest skill you can have in the world is perseverance. And I remember when I got to college playing baseball, the difference between college baseball and high school baseball is 10 miles an hour on a fastball and a slider, right? So you have to figure out how to have bat speed to hit 10 miles an hour faster and how to hit a slider. And I'd never seen a slider in my life. And those of you who don't know baseball, a slider is a pitch that looks like a fastball but isn't. By the time it gets to you, it has moved. And I remember locking myself in the batting cage with my coach, and I told him, throw me sliders until I can hit the damn things. And it took a few weeks, but before I knew it, I was an all-American baseball player in college. And I viewed launching the same way. Lock me in the launch room, and I'm not coming out until I can do this well. So that first online launch, I probably made like 10 grand, but I was so disappointed. And I just thought, this is the moment where you're gonna lock me in the launch room until I get good at it. And it took me about 3 years of launching once, sometimes 3 times a month. But I wasn't after money. I was after skill and difference. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and I wanted to build the skill. And it wasn't until March of 2020 that it happened. And I thought, holy cow, this is different. It finally clicked. I finally understood it.
What happened in March 2020? You can't leave us hanging there.
So in March 2020, so while I'm launching, having mediocre results, I'm making the bulk of my income traveling around the world teaching. I'd become one of the leading teachers in this solution-focused thing that I do in the world, probably easily the top hired lecturer in the world. I've lectured about this approach on every continent. I've keynoted at major conferences. So it wasn't translating into online success. So I was just on the road 3 weeks out of the year teaching. And then March 11th, I'll never forget it. I was sitting at my desk at home, and I was watching an NBA basketball game, and they canceled the NBA basketball game. And I thought, oh shit, I'm about to have all of my events on my calendar schedule canceled, and I don't know how this is gonna go. And sure enough, over the next 48 hours, about 40 gigs canceled or postponed, and it's all gone. And I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. So I just thought I can launch. It's the one, I have control. I have control over the launch. The email list belongs to me. At this time, there's about 26,000 people on my email list, which, by the way, in the subsequent months since, it has now more than doubled. It's about 53,000 today. And I just thought, all I can do is launch. And something about that launch clicked. And it shouldn't have. It's in the middle of the pandemic. Every psychotherapist just lost all their clients. And all my friends were telling me, you can't launch. Nobody has any money. But I just said, it's the only thing I know how to do. And I did the launch. The product cost $147. And I had 262 people buy. And I thought, holy shit. Like, that's the biggest number I've had by more than double. I thought, holy moly. That's the biggest number I had by more than double. And my email list grew by about 1,000. And I realized something, at least for me, the key to launching is only two things. I need things really simple in my head. Number one, I have to convey to the audience that I used to be like you. And number two, I have to be able to convey to the audience that you can now be like me. So I used to be like you, I've been where you are, and if you buy into what I'm saying, you can be where I am. And there's something about that clicked. But I didn't trust it. So when April came, I was like, we're gonna launch again, just to see if it was a fluke in March. So we're gonna launch again and see what happens. And I launched my big flagship training course with a $997 price tag, and we had something like 250 people buy. And I just thought, holy cow, like, this is real. Like, I can actually do this. And I'm so proud of, like, I locked myself in the launch room and I didn't come out until I was able to do it. So anyway, that's a long story, but that's what has happened to me since March.
Well, first of all, congratulations, well done. None of that happens without hard work. So I just want to note that and salute that. And I love that you brought the focus of an athlete to it. You know, that focus is, I'm going to nail the fundamentals, and I'm just going to work on them and work on those fundamentals and nail them.
Right.
And what you just said about, like, this is, say that again, the piece about that clicked about, this is where you go.
I have to make you know that I used to be where you're sitting. And if you buy into what I'm saying, you can be where I'm sitting. And the way that I would convey that is, psychotherapists really want to help their clients, but they get so stuck in their own head, they get stuck and anxious. And I have to convey to you, I didn't always know what I was doing as a psychotherapist. But I did these things that helped me become confident and help my clients and make a difference in my clients' lives. And if you can buy into that and give me $97, you will be confident too. And once I understood that that's like the art of, like, you can study the fundamentals and you should, but it's actually not about the pragmatic steps. It's about the stuff in between. And you have to, like, grind enough to get there, right? You have to just, like, you have to do it enough so that you're no longer thinking about the fundamentals, and then that's where the art shows up. And it took me, I don't know how long it takes other people or whatever, but it took me about 3 years.
Well,
and then I got it.
Yeah, it took you the perfect amount of time. You know, we all move I'll tell you what, you moved faster than I did when I started out. Absolutely. And there's some people that move faster than both of us, but everyone, that was the perfect time for you. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm trying to convince people that we used to be where they are, and this is where I am now, and this is how you get here. Actually, for Elliott, can you just, as a final question here, could you just speak directly to the folks watching this about that idea of you used to be there where they are, you hadn't launched, and frankly, you were up against it too. If you had 40 gigs canceled like that.
48 hours.
Yeah.
I think what I would like to say to people is, I remember having a huge therapy practice and having $200,000 in revenue, but $230,000 of expense. And I remember stressing about where I'm going to be able to come up with the extra revenue. And I remember thinking about how I'm going to take care of my partner. I remember feeling like a failure. I remember feeling lost. I remember feeling stressed. I remember feeling like being able to make money online is for people who had like spent years in graduate school studying marketing. I remember feeling like I didn't have that skill. I wasn't good enough. I remember feeling like that was about them. I remember all of that. I remember looking at the world and just thinking like, that's not for me because I took the clinical path. So like, I'm not gonna be able to achieve those things because they took the marketing path. I remember also when you start like selling to people and you start figuring it out, I remember getting emails from people that weren't super kind. I remember having to overcome that thing that it's not really about selling, it's about impact. And if I wanna make a difference in the lives of psychotherapists, I owe it to the world to make some money so I can stay in business to keep making a difference. I can't make a difference if I've had to close my business because I'm broke. Like, I remember all of that. But that's different now. It's different today because now the conversations I have with myself are you know, 6-figure per month conversations and 7-figure per year conversations. But I remember not being able to sleep at night. I remember waking up with a knot in my stomach, and I remember avoiding my wife's phone calls because I knew she was going to be asking me hard questions about when I was going to be able to put more money in the bank account. And I remember like being in session all day, just being thankful. By the time I got done, she was asleep. I remember those things. And yesterday, my wife texted, and this is like almost going to bring me to tears. Yesterday, my wife is looking for a car, and she texted me. She texted me a picture of a car she was looking at, knowing that I could just go buy it cash. But I remember where it started, and it didn't start like that. But that's where we are today.
Elliott, thank you so much. I love the work you're doing. Your heart just explodes out of the frame. It's so great to talk to you. A remarkable story. I can't wait to see what you've got coming next.
Thank you so much for having me.